I'm uploading the intro video for tonight, and here we go.
Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Hello, everyone. I suspect that you have been watching some unfiltered behind the scenes action as I've been trying to get our guest for tonight online with us. We've had a little bit of a technical glitch. So I'm not sure what you've seen or witnessed, maybe just a moment or two of technical grief in the background, but that's okay because we have it's well worth it. We have Susan Reynolds, astrologer, joining us tonight. So it's going to be an unusual broadcast. As you know, I'm very much grounded and dedicated to truth. So we don't usually delve into too much of this kind of metaphysical type of stuff, but I think it's going to be a worthwhile broadcast tonight. And it's not necessarily a true conspiracies episode. Tonight will be very much focused on truth as well, I think, with Susan, because she's an exceptional and unique astrologer. And we're going to talk a lot about politics. We're going to talk about what the future holds for America, Donald Trump, maybe Canada, the world, really, tonight, I think. So it's going to be an incredible broadcast, especially today, coming on the heels of all this crazy politics out there. So, with that being said, I also want to take one moment and pause because, and I want to do something that is, I think, pretty important before we get into tonight's broadcast. I've heard that someone who has been part of our broadcast, many broadcasts over the last few years, um, in a variety of ways, has lost someone close to them. And so I understand that Leo Lucier lost his brother. And I just want to extend my condolences and say that I'm very sorry for your loss, Leo, and thinking of you. Stay with me. Our broadcast will commence on the other side of this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, let's get this show on the road, shall we? Let's bring our guest in for tonight. I need to click on a couple of things because we have to bring Susan Reynolds, our guest, in through our other system. And there she is. Welcome, Susan Reynolds. Finally, We have you here.
Finally, I have to apologize to you. I should have warned you. Not only am I the most technologically inept guest you're probably ever going to have, but technology does not like me. And all I have to do is look at it, touch it, walk by it, and something will go kaflooey. I just wasn't thinking
Oh
about
no,
that.
it
But
is
we
not.
got there
It
thanks to
is
you.
not you. It's computers. If anything can go wrong, it will go wrong, and it did go wrong. But that's okay because we are here, and it's going to be, I think, a pretty important broadcast tonight in a lot of ways. Um, but first of all, let's just get you to introduce yourself. You are an astrologer,
Yeah.
and a kind of a unique sort of astrologer. Is it you're a karmic
Yes.
astrologer? Can you explain what that is?
Absolutely. I'm an astrologer first and foremost. So I take your birth information, which is your date of birth, place of birth, and time of birth, and I construct a chart and I talk about what's going on in that chart. But years ago, I've been working as an astrologer for decades. When I first started out, it was, I don't know, I think it was the 80s and no, I've been doing this a long time, maybe 40 years. So
Okay.
it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And before every reading, which I still do, I go into a time of prayer meditation. I ask that the veil of heaven will be drawn back, that I may see and hear and know that which is important for my client. And I would do that for every reading. And I was in prayer and meditation for this client who I had never met before. And suddenly I was shown this past life. I mean, like, cue the MGM fog, and reality went away. And I'm looking at this vision and I'm like, oh, what is this? This wasn't in the book, kind of thing. And I saw a picture of what I knew was this woman's past life. And she was in Ireland and she had a lot of children and her husband was a farmer and she was a good woman. And this was a very ordinary life. And she died fairly young, like maybe her early 50s or something. And then the image disappeared. And I didn't know what to do. I was very angry at my guides. Like, I did not ask for this. I need to be talking about Saturn. I don't want to talk about this airy fairy stuff. And I kept thinking, do I tell this woman about this? This sounds so bizarre. And she may not even believe in past lives. How can I tell her this? But I saw it. I should share it. I went back and forth, back and forth. Finally, I decided I would tell her. And I would tell her first before I did anything else. And if she was angry or upset or didn't like it, she could leave and not pay me anything. And that's how I would handle it. I was a little embarrassed because if you're going to see a past life, I was hoping to see something a little more exciting than you're an Irish housewife. Couldn't you be a pirate or a Civil War general? Like, let's get some pizzazz here. No, nothing. Irish housewife. So I'm telling this woman, maybe early 30s, very professional dressed, and I'm telling her what I saw. And my client burst into tears. And she said, oh my God, that explains my whole life. And as she composed herself, she started to tell me. And she grew up in a large Irish Catholic family in Boston. And the girls went to college just like the boys, but they were sort of expected to find their husbands in college and maybe they would get a job to help out. She said, I always knew I didn't want that. I didn't want to be a housewife. I didn't want to just get a job here and there. I always wanted a career. She went to law school. She had graduated law school. She had a great job at a top-notch law firm. And she said, but I always felt guilty because I wasn't living the kind of life my family expected me to live. And now I know why. I don't have to live that kind of life. I already did that. No wonder I want something different. As she was talking to me, I could see this woman getting younger and lighter and freer. And after that, I said, okay, I may not understand this, but show me whatever you're going to show me, and I will share it with my client. That's why I say it's karmic, because this was part of her soul's path. This is part of what her soul was learning. And so almost always when I read for my clients, I'll see something about this is why your soul chose this. And for me, I find that very healing. I find that very empowering. Like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's what I mean by karmic astrologer.
Okay, so that's what makes what you do in this field sort of unique.
It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little bit different because I'm dealing with the astrology of the soul. I'm talking about your soul's purpose. I'm talking about why you chose that purpose. I'm talking about talents and abilities you may have brought in to help you achieve that, fears you may have about doing this. It doesn't make everything go away and suddenly everything is hunky-dory, but it helps you understand.
I see.
And when we understand, we can feel safer and stronger and more empowered.
And so we're going to get into politics and stuff in a little while, but you raised something that I think is important. You said that this woman chose to have a career, not just be a housewife again. And so that raises an important question that I sort of um, alerted you to that I was going to ask tonight. If we're talking about astrology and making predictions or even looking at the
Mhm.
past, do people actually have free will?
Yes, Earth is a free will planet, meaning we can and do make decisions that are contrary to our highest good. You know, you may know that putting onions on your pizza gives you indigestion and heartburn all night, but you still order the onions on your pizza because you like it and it tastes so good. So, yes, the Earth is a free will planet, but what you're getting into is probably my personal philosophy of the soul and earth and life and everything else. In spirit, our soul, not encased in a body, when we're on the other side, we plan our life. We plan things we want to learn and grow and deal with. So we put those markers, so to speak, in our chart. But it doesn't mean we have to do it. We can completely ignore that. Nope, that's too hard. I'm not going to do that. We have that free will. But then we just have to come back and do it again. It's much easier to say, oh, I need to learn this. Okay, let me buckle down and learn this. So yes, we do have things we put in our chart that say, I'm going to meet these conditions because I need to learn this. But we can run away. We have the free will to say, no, I don't want to do it. Life is too hard. I'm backing out. But if we can sort of suck it up, so to speak, and put energy into that and say, how do I grow through this? How do I learn? How do I meet this on the highest level? We're healing our life in the moment, and we're healing our soul to move up to higher levels of growth and wisdom and knowledge.
So if someone doesn't come to you for a reading and
Mhm,
they're not aware of what the future might hold, would
mhm.
they then still would the future then still be uncertain or controllable? Or would do you see where I'm going with this? It's like now
Yeah,
you're kind of manipulating the wrinkles in time space going into the future because you've influenced what the person knows or
yeah.
thinks they might know and the decisions they might make going into the future. So you are messing with the time space continuum. And I hope that the DeLorean isn't going back and forth in time at 88 miles an hour,
Oh my goodness.
because if things come together, the universe could fly apart.
I feel like we should be on the Big Bang Theory.
Yes, that's right. So, this is pretty deep stuff, really.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, good friend of mine, in the 70s, gave birth to her first child, which was a boy, and he was born with cerebral palsy. And so, as you can imagine, this was devastating for the family. You know, the rates for divorce with a handicapped child are like through the roof, like over 70%. And so they didn't have the resources that we have today in 2025. She had to quit her job to take care of her child. So here is this very nice, loving, kind couple faced with this huge life-changing situation. And they did something that maybe most couples don't do. They came together as a couple to deal with it. They started to look at, how can we help our son? How can we do the best for him? And now, being my friend, she's very woo-woo. Her and her husband are very woo-woo. So when her son was like 5 or 6, she got a reading, not with me, with somebody else who was very well known, reader or psychic, whatever you want to call them. And he said, every family's going to ask, why? Why me? Why do I have a child that's handicapped? So she's trying to understand, why am I in this situation? And this psychic, this man told her, in other lifetimes, you made fun of people with handicaps. You mocked them and demeaned them. And now you're in a situation where you're trying to do the best for your son. Now, that situation would be there whether she had a reading or not. She would still be raising her child. She would still be trying to do the best. But she has a choice. Am I going to deal with this situation in the most positive way possible, or am I going to be angry, bitter? God failed me. Why am I being punished? Which is very easy to do when life is handing us lemons. We can't always make lemonade, We want to throw the lemon at somebody.
Yeah.
So, but that situation was still there, regardless of whether she had a reading or not. She was still trying to be a good mother, raise her child. So whether you have a reading or not, the karmic situations that you've chosen to look at or to deal with are still there. But I think a reading helps us understand better and let go of some of that, oh, God's punishing me, or why does my life suck and everybody else has a good life, which I know neither one of us would ever do that, but some people might look at that.
Wow. So you're down there in Charlotte, North Carolina, is that
Yeah.
right? Okay.
I'm in North Carolina.
And actually, the irony, maybe the stars are aligning in a kind of a bizarre way, because we've seen out of Charlotte just this past week, I guess it was in the past week, Irina Ketzer, the Ukrainian lady on the public
On
transit,
the rail line.
right?
Yeah.
So that's become a very political thing. Then we've seen, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce her name without looking at it. I apologize. But also, now the assassination or killing of Charlie Kirk, and then, massive protests in London today. We've seen more drone attacks in Ukraine. The world is just like, right now, it's just crazy. So, I emailed you and I said, maybe tonight we can talk a little bit about what the stars are telling you about Donald Trump, the president, maybe even the fate of America or the world. And so I don't know what you've been able to kind of put together in that regard, but
that's a little bit of a big task to explain the world.
Really.
I'll do my best.
Yes.
I've started to meditate on this and look at this because I'm like everybody else. We're stressed, we're scared, we're confused. This is not just Canada or the United States dealing with these emotions. This is the world. So I'm going to back up a little bit. And I'm going to back up to, I think, 2023. And at that point, for the first time in over a couple hundred years, Pluto left the sign of Capricorn and moved into the sign of Aquarius. Now, this is big doings. Astrologically, this is big doings. Capricorn is the sign of authority. It's the sign of the dictator. It's a sign of the boss that says, do what I say, not as I do. I'm in charge. You listen. I say jump, you ask how high. That's Capricorn. They own their authority. But as it's leaving Capricorn and going into Aquarius, Aquarius is just the opposite. Aquarius is a sign that is about freedom, about independence, about equality. So Pluto will stay in the sign of Aquarius until 2043. And what we're going to see is the world, not just Canada or the United States. We are going to see the world change in ways we've never seen before. And so what's going to happen is all the old authoritative, I'm going to call it rot, that's sort of underneath a lot of democratic governments that is hidden, is going to start coming to the surface. And populations are going to say, wait a minute, we don't want that. This isn't what our country is about. So you're going to see a lot of stress, a lot of change, a lot of overthrowing things, a lot of shock. Because I'm going to say, I think this is true for Canada. I know it's true for the United States. When I hear the word oligarch, I think of Russia and the Russian oligarchs who are around Putin and sort of running things. Mm-hmm. But the United States has its own oligarchs, and Canada has its own oligarchs. And other countries, democratic countries, have their multi-billionaires who are really running things underneath. While we're going along going, love and light, peace on earth, where's democracy? We are unaware of how much influence a lot of these people have and the kinds of decisions they're making that we are living with, that we're unaware of. So as this Pluto is in Aquarius and will stay there for many, many years, this is being brought to the surface. So we're going to see this in all kinds of countries, in Russia, in the US, in Canada, in European countries, Australia, you name it, because this is a worldwide phenomenon of moving into freedom, equality. So in the United States, we have Donald Trump as the president. And I listen to him, and the things he says a lot is about the opposite of freedom and equality. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to see other leaders in other nations do the same thing, whether it's them or their cabinet or the people around them. We're going to start to see this more so it can be unmasked and so it can be healed and changed. Between 2025 and I'm going to say around 2040, we're going to see the world and nation changes in ways we've never seen before. And I think it's a good thing. When I say change, I don't mean, oh God, what now? I mean, I see the world becoming more equal, more democratic, more about equality and freedom. So I do see positive things happening, but you kind of have to go through the crap to get to the good stuff. Yeah. So a lot of nations, not just the United States, are starting to question things and deal with things and see things. September, this month in September of 2025, is an especially powerful month because we have 2 eclipses happening. In ancient times, eclipses were considered to be portents of doom for the kings and queens. We don't have a lot of kings and queens now. Maybe King Charles, I'll give you that one. Sweden, maybe, the Netherlands, a few countries here and there have a constitutional monarchy, but for the most part, instead of kings and queens, we have premiers and prime ministers and presidents, and those are the leaders. So we are going to see these eclipses affect world leaders. One of the things that eclipses do that I like is eclipses tend to reveal that which has been hidden. It's interesting to me that we have just had hearings in Congress for the Epstein victims testifying publicly about what they went through. That which has been underneath and hidden coming to light in a very public way. As above, so below. As we see these kinds of things happening in nations, it's also happening in our personal life. What are you starting to wake up to? What are you starting to see that maybe you just kind of put over there? I don't want to do that. That's hard. We won't look at that. The eclipse happens and you're like, oh, I better pay off this car, or I better start saving some money, or I better get a college fund for my kid. We start to look at things that we've denied within ourselves. We start to see things in a different way. And that's powerful.
Yes. How do you detect these things, or what's the process that you use? Do you just look up at the stars? How does this work? Where do you get your information? What's your source?
Oh God, I feel like I should be in Congress. What did Susan know, and when did she know it?
Exactly.
Well, you're looking at a couple of things. The movement of the planets. The movement of the planets has been plotted out for future decades. So if I want to know what Venus is going to be doing in the year 2030, I can look that up. That's in a book, and I can look at the book and I can say in 2030, Venus is going to be doing this. Everybody has a chart that is born. We have that moment, we come out to the world, and it's like the universe took a snapshot of where the planets were when we were born. That's basically your natal chart. So I'm going to look at 2030. I'm going to say, what's going on there? Oh, Rick's going to have a little something going on there in 2030, because I'm looking at what the future plan is going to be in a place that may affect your chart. Everybody has a chart. We have a chart when we're born. Countries have a chart when they come into being. Animals have a chart when they're born. I had a client ask me if I would do a reading for her dog. And I was like, really? You want me to read your dog? It turned out her dog was a show dog and was having anxiety and she couldn't show him. So she wanted to see what was going on. So we did a reading and, so I've read for animals, not a lot, but I read for some animals. You look at the United States. When is our birthday? July 4th, 1776. That's when our nation comes into being. Now, the United States has like a dozen different charts because as a nation comes into being, that's often a process. Did we come into being when Columbus discovered America? Did we come into being with the Articles of Confederation? Did we come into being, when the first shot was fired? It's a process, and that's true for all countries. When the USSR fell and they changed their country, they got a new chart. So you can look at different countries and see what's going on with that country, what's going on with that leader, because most leaders have their birth chart pretty public. Some leaders, manage to sneak under the radar there, but most leaders, you can find their chart and you can look and go, oh, they've got some stuff going on. Let's look at this. So you look at where the planets are now, you look at where the planets are going to be, and you look at the charts of the person, of the nation, and you see how are they coming together. Are they stressed? Are they supporting each other? Is that president or prime minister going to have a hard time? Are they going to announce something wonderful? Every astrologer can interpret that differently, and it's not wrong. You might have Saturn sitting next to your sun, and one astrologer says, oh, you might be depressed. Another astrologer says, oh, your father may have a problem. Another astrologer says, oh, you may start your own business. Another one may say you get promoted. They're all right because there's so many different ways of interpreting that. I look at the planets and then I go within and I use my own intuition. I go into times of prayer, meditation. I work with my guides. Sometimes in a reading, I'll stop in the middle of the reading because my clients' guides are yelling in my ear about something, and I'll just share it with them. And what I do is for entertainment. This is like the world according to Susan. I don't know what's going to happen to the leaders. Yeah. So don't ask me if I could fix Donald Trump and Mark Carney or the King Charles, because I can't. This is entertainment.
I understand.
But every January, I give a predictions talk. And I say, this is what I think is going to happen for the year ahead. And I gave one this past January. And a lot of the stuff I talked about, we're seeing happen. And part of me always says, I want all the good stuff to happen and all the not so good stuff I want to be wrong about. Because I want unicorns and rainbows like everybody else, Now, I'm going to back up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, in January, I said publicly I was very concerned about Donald Trump's health. And I said that in January. And I said that last January in 2024.
And we're seeing some concerns surface now.
Yes. And I said, regardless of your politics, doesn't matter if you're to the left, to the right, in the middle, or somewhere else, I asked people to pray for this man. And I got a lot of pushback from people who are really mad at me about asking for that. But to wish harm on someone diminishes us. And so the more that we can lift somebody up in prayer, even if we don't particularly like them or agree with them, the more we are lifting ourselves up. It helps us. Now, I will say, and again, this is strictly entertainment. I think this month in September, Donald Trump has had a mini stroke. I think you call them TIAs. I'm not sure the medical terminology, and I don't think it's his first one. I don't even think it's his second one. I think he's been under doctor's care for a while. And I think he and the people around him and the White are aware of this. This is a very sick man. I think he has congestive heart failure. I think there's something wrong with his kidneys. I think there's cognitive impairment. When I pick up his energy, it feels very weak. I know his words when he speaks sound very strong, but his physical energy feels very weak, very tired. kind of thing. And I think and this is just an intuitive impression, folks. It feels as if he's thinking about his passing. You know, I remember this is like a few weeks ago or last month, he started asking his followers to send him $15 each so he could get into heaven.
He did
And
that?
I was like,
I didn't.
yeah.
Wow.
I'm like, I don't think it works like that, President Trump. But by all means, see if God's open to a bribe. Let me know. I'll take up a collection for me and for all of us. But I think he's thinking like that. I think this is in his mind. I don't think he feels well. When I pick up his energy, he does not feel good.
Yeah.
Between September and December, I think there's going to be a health event that can severely impact him to the point he cannot be president anymore. If he had a major stroke where he needed months of rehab, they would have to invoke Article 25, which the president can't, lead. He needs to concentrate on his health. This could be something life-threatening. I'm not sure. October and November feel very chaotic for him. I keep getting like bumpy road, not smooth. I don't know what's going on, but his energy feels very weak to me, very tired to me. If he was my client, I'd be saying, go home and rest. Take a sabbatical, take some time off. He's the president. He can't really do that. But that's what I'd be telling them. And that's what I think he needs.
Maybe we should have had you take a look at JD Vance, and then we would know, because they'd be
Well,
like, oh, yeah, he's coming into the White House.
Yep. I think JD Vance gets inaugurated as president, and I think it's sometime in 2026. But the funny thing, and remember, just for fun, the funny thing about Vance is when I meditate on this and I look at this, it doesn't feel like he's the president until 2028, which would be when we'd have another presidential election. It feels like he's a blip, like he's there and then he's gone. And I'm not sure why. Is he have a health issue? Is he impeached? Is he resigning? I don't know. There's not that many ways you leave the presidency, but I don't see him being president for 3 years. I see him being president and then not being president. Very quick, very short turnaround.
Now you have me worried after seeing what happened to Charlie Kirk, and with all of this friction and division out there, it makes me wonder if what you're foreshadowing might be some sort of violent end to his presidency, which I would never wish on anyone.
I didn't think about that. I didn't consider that. I mean, it's a possibility, as always. Like, it might rain tomorrow is a possibility. I'll say I didn't see that at this time.
Well, we'll hope that doesn't happen.
Yes, our country, the United States, has seen enough violence. We need to be done with this. What I do see, and how this energy feels to me, is that the United States right now is actively in a civil war. I don't mean, battlements and cannons and firing physical weapons at each other. But instead of the blue and the gray, we have the red states and blue states. Yep. Instead of the physical bullets being fired at each other, we have the verbal bullets from the different pundits on all the news shows firing bullets at each other. We're confused, we're uncertain. It's brother against brother, father against son. Families are torn apart because of their political beliefs. Make no mistake, energetically, the United States is in the energy of a civil war, regardless of whether people are taking up arms and being drafted. And some of this, I think, is a karmic result or residue of the first civil war in our nation in the 1860s. When the Civil War was over, the South was not treated very well. It was not like, well, you're part of the country. Let's welcome you back in. Let's heal the wounds. It was like, we're going to make you suffer. You put us through this. By God, we're going to punish you. And to some degree and in some ways, those wounds have stayed with us through all this time. And here we are, back in another situation with another civil war. And our country has the opportunity to do it better, has the opportunity to heal that. One of the things that I pray for all the time is our nation coming together, whether somebody agrees with you or disagrees with you. How do we come together? How do we heal? How do we forgive?
Yeah.
Our nation had to face this in the 1860s, and boom, here we are again, looking at how do we heal from this. And it's going to be a while.
It doesn't feel like we're off to a very good start. Not this week, anyway.
I don't know. Well, this week has been a particularly challenging week. I will say I'm a little bit more to the left than maybe a lot of people, given what I do. I'm a little bit more woo-woo. But I have a lot of friends that are very conservative, and they're off to the right.
Yeah.
And we talk about the different beliefs. We talk about, well, where did you get this? Or why do you believe that way? And we are respectful of each other. We're not yelling at them and calling them Satan's, minion or something. We're listening. We may not agree, but we're having rational, calm discussions. Mm-hmm. And I think if I can do this in my personal life, surely our country should be able to do this. So this is what our mission is, so to speak, going through this. How do we forgive those who have hurt us? Because if you're thinking of the far right people as the ones hurting everybody, some of them are good, decent people who've been hurt by the people on the far left. Pain or hurt, it doesn't have a political party. And so we have to find a way to open our hearts to people who disagree with us. And that's hard, especially given an assassination here and the political Melissa, what was her name, Hartman, and her husband and the dog all shot in their home, just for being more liberal. And here we have a super conservative guy. He's murdered in cold blood. It doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right. We have to find a way to listen and to heal, which is what this time is about. And no, as I say this, I know it's not easy to do. It's easy for me to say it. It's not easy to do it. We struggle with this. We're human.
Absolutely. This is a good place to take a short break. When we come back, our conversation with Susan will continue, and we'll gaze into the future and find out what awaits us. What is our fate as a nation, as a world, as who knows what. But don't forget, we do have free will. We'll be right back.
We have free will.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, and we are back with Susan Reynolds from Charlotte, North Carolina, astrologer extraordinaire.
Oh, you're no pressure there.
Well, you've been at it for 40 years. I would imagine you've learned how to do it by now. And do you have any books out or anything like that?
I do not. I've thought about writing a book, but so far I haven't because I'm kind of busy with other things. So I haven't. I do have my website, which is exploreastrology.com. Yeah. And I will say on my website, I put out free predictions for every sign every month. There's a lot of people who maybe can't afford a full reading and quite frankly may not need a full reading. So I put out a few paragraphs for every sign every month to say, this is what September holds for Leo, or this is what Virgo needs to be aware of, kind of thing. You don't have to join anything. You don't have to pay anything. It's my way of giving back. And I have a newsletter that I send out totally free. And it talks about the full moon and the new moon so that you can get information on what's going on. Because we need all the help we can get to navigate these times. And some of my friends are like, Susan, stop doing that. You're giving away your business. Like, you need to charge for this stuff.
So how do people find you if they want a reading or to
go to my
support your
website?
Business?
Go to my website, Explore Astrology. Go to my Facebook page. I have 2 Facebook pages. One is Susan Reynolds and one is Explore Astrology with Susan Reynolds. And every morning I post on my Facebook page where the moon is going to be that day. Like, moon's going to be in Gemini, and that's a restless day. And you're going to be running around a lot. So people can kind of get a heads up. So yes, my email address is on my website. Most people either know somebody who's had a reading with me, or they find me through my website, Explore Astrology, and just, go to my email address and tell me you want a reading. We'll make it happen,
Okay,
kind of thing.
cool. So even we've heard a little bit about what could happen to Donald Trump over the next few months. I'm more concerned about what might happen to the world, especially when I see what's happening in the news today in Ukraine and Poland, where we've seen drone attacks from Russia launched into Poland, now Romania as well. F-16s dispatched to shoot some of them down over the last couple of days. There was another drone, more drones in Romanian airspace today and in Poland. Donald Trump, posting on Truth Social saying, I'm ready to impose sanctions, but you have to, all the NATO countries, all of them have to stop buying Russian oil, all of this stuff coming together. And I have to ask, are we in World War III? Are we going to see an escalation that gets us into a kinetic form of World War III as we see these Russian troops today on the Belarusian border? And I see even Iskander missiles on highways parked not far from the border there, all kinds of like escalatory developments. It's very worrisome. 40,000 troops from Poland moved into position in sort of a standoff with these Russian troops who are engaged in some sort of an exercise. Very worrisome. What do you see?
I'm going to say, and this is intuitive, I do not see us entering World War III. It is a scary, scary situation. I think it is, and this is intuitive on my part. So, again, take it or leave it. When I pick up the energy of Putin, his energy doesn't feel strong, which, you'd think it felt very strong as he's launching these drones. It feels weak and scared. It's almost like he's doing this as a distraction. I think by the end of the year, there's some sort of peace talk between Ukraine and Russia. I think Ukraine, so to speak, wins. They may give up a few things, but basically, I see Ukraine being the victor. One of the things that I said in January is I said, and I was giving this talk before Donald Trump took office, I said, I do see Donald Trump keeping his campaign promise to remove all funding from Ukraine. And I said, but I'm not worried about that, because what we're going to see is we're going to see Europe come together and pick up the slack and send all kinds of weapons and support to Ukraine.
Well,
and we've seen that happen.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on.
And
no
things
funding,
that Biden was sort of telling Zelensky, no, don't do that. That'll escalate. Europe saying, go for it. We're behind you. Go for it. So I see Ukraine putting together more attacks on Russia that do great damage to Russia. And I see Russia sort of coming to the table to negotiate. This feels like sometime between December and February, so not that far away. And I don't know that there's any good ending to something like this. But what I would say is I think there's an acceptable peace is the best way I want to say that.
That's probably a good way to phrase things, because victory or winning at this point, I mean, it's a very subjective term, right?
Yeah. We are going to see in the years ahead, Ukraine build up its country again. It's going to have billions and billions of dollars coming in from all over the world to help it rebuild from the devastation it has gone through with this war with Russia. Putin's energy, this is going to sound a little strange, but I see a triangle like Trump, Putin, Netanyahu, almost like this kind of triangle. And none of them are what I would call spring chickens. Like these are senior citizens, we'll put it that way. And I think they pass close to each other, like maybe within a couple of years of each other. And so we're going to see in a fairly short period of time a huge political shift and new leaders coming in and new policies coming in and looking at, are they better? Are they worse? Are they listening to us? Are they not? But we're going to see some major political changes. Putin's energy, I'm going to sound like such a conspiracy theorist, so I'm just going to apologize up front. It feels like the energy that I'm feeling is not the energy that I'm seeing. When I see him getting off a plane or shaking hands, it feels strong, it feels rational, it feels solid, but that's not what it feels like when I pick him up intuitively. He may be using some kind of doubles. I know, I never thought I would say something like that. I can't believe I'm saying that out loud, but there you go. I don't know another explanation for what I feel versus what I see.
How many Putins are there?
I don't know. That's a good question.
How many Donald Trumps do we have? How many of me are there really here?
Well, now you're getting into alternate universes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, we're kind of dealing with exactly that. Space, time. Does time act? Does the past still exist? These are metaphysical and quantum questions, really.
These are things you stay up all night talking about after you've had a few glasses of wine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I will say, I do support the belief of the soul going through past lives and having future lives where they choose to work and learn on something. So one of the things I started to do a few years ago is I started to ask for the talent and the ability and the knowledge and the wisdom that I had gained in other lifetimes to come forward to me in this lifetime in a positive, helpful way.
Well, it sounds like what you do, the information you provide, the readings, I get the sense that it actually helps people. And while some people may be very skeptical, I get the feeling that maybe you kind of change minds simply by providing this, pretty positive reinforcement, even when you're giving information that you are afraid might be interpreted in a negative way. It ends up helping people. Is that really why you do what you do, to try to help people?
Yes, absolutely. None of us tiptoe through the daisies with zero problems, and every day is, like the Truman Show, sun shining and happy. Most of us have issues. We have parents we're not getting along with. We have children that aren't talking to us. We have a sick spouse. We have a job we don't like. There are things we have to deal with. That's life.
Yeah.
But when a person has a reading, hopefully it opens up a new way of looking at those things. And instead of feeling trapped, we can shift into feeling like we're still in charge of our life. And I do work with a couple of therapists who sometimes send me a client. And they're like, you know what? You might need to get a reading, and they'll book a reading with me, and they'll be like, so-and-so told you that, right? I'm like, no, I haven't talked to them. But sometimes a reading can pinpoint a problem. Like, oh, here, this father issue is jumping out, and they'll be like, it took me 3 years to get to the father issue with my therapist. So sometimes a reading can bring something to light or have you looking at it in a different way. And lots of times I tell people having a reading is much more like therapy than woo-woo stuff, It's more like, well, you may have reacted to this in this way, but try looking at it in a different way. So yes, I do this to help people, and I do this to help them learn and grow in positive ways, not the pain and suffering, but awareness and grace.
And as much as people might be skeptical about this stuff, some very prominent politicians, world leaders through history and even presently have used and continue to use astrologers. I compiled a bit of a list here.
My
Uh,
goodness.
Winston Churchill, Franklin Roosevelt, Queen Elizabeth I, Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, Cleopatra VII, Ronald Reagan, and his wife Nancy both used astrologers, consulted. So they took it
There's
pretty
a very
seriously.
there's a very well-known saying in astrology that's attributed to J.P. Morgan. And he said, millionaires don't use astrology, but billionaires do.
Mm.
And so I do have clients that will ask me about stock prices, and don't call me and ask me to pick out good stocks for you or give you the winning lottery numbers. I cannot do that, or we would be doing this podcast from a yacht in the Mediterranean,
Yeah.
But yes, astrology can be very practical, very down to earth. It's not all up here in la la land. It's okay, should I buy this house? Should I buy this car? So in a reading, I may say, you know what? Right here through the summer, I wouldn't spend a lot of money. It looks like in the fall, there may be some extra expenses or something. So maybe the guy was going to buy a car that summer. And he says, you know what? I'm going to wait till the fall because Susan said there might be some expenses. So they don't buy the car. It turns out they need a new roof in October. And guess what? They have the money.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell people all the time that going to an astrologer is like going in to see an investment counselor. They give you their best advice. They give you their knowledge or wisdom as they know it, but you're in charge of making that decision. So the investment guy may say, you know what, it looks like gold is going to be down or this or that stock's good. And you say, thank you. You may walk out, I think they're full of crap. I'm going to do this. You do what you want to do. Free will again. But you may take it into account.
So as we kind of pivot back to, some political figures from history, let's look a little bit up here to Kanakistan, Canada, and what's going on today. Big protests mirroring really what we're seeing over in England, but not nearly on the same scale. I think hundreds of thousands of people out in the streets in England today, in London. In Canada, up in Toronto, there was a protest. People on the left and the right clashing head to head. We saw really, I think, and I didn't watch it all live. I decided I just wanted to go hug a tree and work on my car. So, right. But as I understand it, the people on the left surrounded the people on the right, like a huge crowd of people on the left got the people on the right in the center, and the cops had to form a line around them. And oh my God, it's just like off the charts insane. War. Yeah. And like, I guess we're experiencing here in Canada, in a ways, sort of what you're going through in the States. Any thoughts on where we're at up here in the Great White North?
Well, I will tell you, when Mark Carney won, I have a friend of mine who lives in Canada, and we were talking, and I said, Mark Carney needs to send Trump a muffin basket as a thank you for getting him elected.
Yes,
because
that's true.
Up until almost the election or whatever, I felt the energy going more conservative. And I forget the conservative, was it Paul somebody? I forget.
Yeah, nobody can pronounce his name. I don't know how he didn't even win his own seat. Maybe it's because people can't pronounce his name. It could be. But anyway, he's back in because there was a by-election. They shoehorned him into a riding, and now he's back in the House. So he's leading the Conservatives again. But I digress.
Because I felt a lot more energy on his side. And then Trump came in, and Canadians took a look at the hot mess the United States is in, and they went, oh, heck no, we don't want that in our country. And they went liberal, and Mark Carney got elected. So, he owes Trump a muffin basket or a fruit platter at the minimum, because that's why Mark Carney is in there. I ran a chart for him, and I was shocked It's a very unusual chart, very
No doubt he's an
dramatic
unusual
chart
guy.
astrologically. Everything in his chart is in two camps, Pisces, Virgo, like opposing each other, fighting each other. Now, Pisces, very loving, very kind, very sensitive, very intuitive, but Pisces is about secrets. It's about behind the scenes stuff. It's about privacy. Pisces is about big dreams, compassion, love and life. We've got fantasies of being, the next Oprah or the next Beyonce, big dreams, no boundaries. I want everything. I'll be queen of the world kind of thing. That's a little Pisces. Virgo is very down to earth. Virgo is like, okay, what's going to cost for you to be queen of the world? How are you going to do this? What's the plan? Let's see some numbers here.
This is all making sense to me, actually, when I look at him. But please continue. Yes, this is right on the money.
Because I know nothing about him. The only thing I know about him is he was involved in banking or economic forum, and that's it. That's all I know about.
The governor of the Bank of Canada and the governor of the Bank of England, and now prime minister. So he's got quite a background.
He has to, on a personal level, because I don't know anything about it, he has to find a way to balance his big dreams with concrete reality. He wants to spew big dreams of utopian society and everything happening, which is great, but he can't just say that and walk away. He has to have a plan to make that happen. Now, this month in September, I said we have 2 eclipses. And the first eclipse was on September 7th, and that was Pisces energy. And the second eclipse is right around the corner. It's on the 21st of September, and that's in Virgo energy. It's a solar eclipse, a partial solar eclipse. And it's at 29 degrees, which is a degree of completion, it's sometimes 29 degrees. Pisces is sometimes called the degree of sorrow because you're finishing up something kind of thing. It's considered to be the last degree of the last sign of the zodiac, but we won't get there. We're looking at how does this affect Canada and Mark Carney. So 3 days before the 21st and 3 days after, so that would put us at the 18th to the 24th kind of thing. This is going to hit his chart hard. And what did I say? Eclipses tend to reveal that which has been hidden. So there may be some things that Carney announces that surprise Canada, or, he's what? He's trans? He's really a woman, or he wants to, I'm making this stuff up, folks. I'm not really saying this about your prime minister, but there may be some things.
You've started something now. I guarantee it. But anyway,
just making something up like a crazy example.
On.
I'm sure it's a very nice man. Certainly not meaning to insult him in any way or malign him or upset him.
Actually, it's okay.
But this is him trying to find a way to balance both of these energies. What are the secrets he may have been keeping, or things he may not have been saying out loud? Maybe there's money or finance that has come from sources that he would prefer Canadians not to know about. I don't know anything about campaign finance laws in Canada and the US. They have been flouted left and right kind of thing. And there's lots of talk in Congress about this or that's illegal. There may be some talk like that in Canada. What's legal? What wasn't reported? Does this have to be reported kind of thing? This can also be something about healthcare, because Virgo and Pisces are very involved with health and the body. Now, yes, this could be something personal about Carney's health, but it doesn't feel like that to me. He feels pretty healthy. It feels like there may be something about the healthcare system in Canada. Now, I know there's universal coverage in Canada, which the United States doesn't have, but other than that, I don't really know much about Canada's healthcare plan, but there may be some changes here. There may be some things that he wants to finish up. Eclipses often bring us closure. And I say all the time that eclipses are like astrological wormholes, because they take us from one reality to another reality in the blink of an eye. Don't think we're going to see the 100% results of this eclipse in September. Think to February, March. We are going to see the results of the decisions made this September play out in February, March of next year. So be aware of that. We're going to see some new things happening. Now we have had for July, from May through August, we have had Saturn in Aries. Aries is a fighter. Aries wants to do. Aries wants to make it happen. Aries can be feisty, Aries is a fighter. You talking to me? Kind of thing.
Mm.
But now it's slipped back into the sign it was in before, which is Pisces. So again, Pisces can be secrets, and Pisces can be things that we don't know about. Saturn will stay here until February. And so it's going to bring in a longing to escape for everybody, for citizens, for leaders, for everybody. Pisces doesn't always deal with reality well. Marconi deals with it better because he's got all that Virgo. But, when we have this Virgo Pisces kind of conflict going on, this sun at Virgo, it's gonna struggle with this Saturn in Pisces. So we're going to be looking at, where are we restricted? For Canada, this can be, are you putting in restrictions about going to different provinces? Or there may be something going on with the Canadian-US border. There may be some border skirmishes or something going on there. I hope not, and I hope that plays out beautifully. But there may be some things, because Saturn is like a hard stop. You're not going past this line. Saturn is restriction. Saturn is, nope, this is the reality. So we're going to have to look at reality in a way we may not like. But Saturn in Pisces wants to escape. So look at, where do you escape when you're down, when you're depressed? Do you eat more? I head for the refrigerator. I head for the Haagen-Dazs ice cream every time.
Oh, now you've done it. Now I have to go get some. Okay, so you actually have me a little bit worried, because we're seeing the rise of separatist forces in Quebec and in Alberta. Some of that is being facilitated and encouraged and enabled, I would say is probably the better word, by some of the MAGA forces, even some funding being offered to some of the separatist activists out in Western Canada. And then we've, of course, have Donald Trump talking about the 51st state.
Oh, that's nonsense. Nothing
dividing.
is ever going to happen with that. That's strictly nonsense.
Okay.
But I will say, a separatist movement is escaping. We don't like your country.
Yeah.
We're going to go do this, and we'll create utopia, and we're not going to let you in.
Right.
This kind of thing.
You just said it all right there. I keep hearing it over and over again. But please continue. What is in store with regard to possible separation of these separatist oriented provinces?
I see it in my head as you're talking about that. I see it like a bubble. Like, as there's more problems in the world, more stress, more drones, more, we don't have answers and I'm scared. We're going to see more energy go towards separatists. But it's like a bubble. I think by next spring, next March, April, I think the bubble bursts. And I think a lot of that energy dies down. So for now, it's very strong. And for the next 4 or 5 months, it's going to escalate a little bit more. Yeah. But then it's like, okay, we're going to take a deep breath, and we're going to lower the temperature, and, we're not going to succeed from the union. We're going to come back in. But for right now, yeah, it can be upsetting.
Yes.
And it can be a lot of rhetoric, kind of thing going on.
Yeah. Well, I know it can be upsetting, because I say things like, well, come on, guys. It's a pretty good country. And then I'm never talking to you again. And then they just stop calling. But they're kind of friends. They'll come back.
That'll do it. We're going to see in the United States, I think in the Northeast and the Northwest, we've seen certain states clumping together and saying, okay, if the United States is not providing vaccines and healthcare, we're starting our own little healthcare network.
It's going on. So, yep.
Even though they haven't, said we're leaving the country, they're starting their own little communities. And I think we're going to see that in Canada, but I also think that's temporary. I don't think that's going to last for years. As we start to move into 26, we're going to see, and I don't know if this is good or bad, we're going to see more changes in 26 than we've seen in 25. But I think the changes we're seeing, the words that come to me, common sense. We're going to see people look at common sense and go, okay, if we're going to leave Canada and start our own nation, we'd have to do this and we'd have to do that. And we, like they're starting to look at what does it take to do this? And go, oh, that sounds like a lot of work.
Yes.
Yeah. So
right.
I don't see
that's
this.
Exactly right.
Yeah, I don't see this going long term or happening, but I do see a lot of rhetoric between now and the end of the year, September through December.
Oh, yeah.
I'm also going to say I was really surprised when I looked at these charts, how many similarities there are between Canada's chart and the chart of the US. Our charts have a lot of commonality together. We're both Cancer countries. We both have strong Uranus principles of equality and fairness. I mean, there's a lot of overlap, which is why up until recently, our countries have gotten along so well. Like we understand each other and have that long open border, one of the longest in the world, I think. It's only been these last few months that, we've had some difficulty, which I'm not going to go there because I can't fix this. I can just say, starting next year, I think we start to hear a lot more common sense. I do think by the end of next year, sometime between January and December, I do think we see Vance take over the Oval Office. Now, he's not exactly a liberal. He's MAGA. He's far right. But I don't see him saying crazy stuff. I don't see him saying stuff that doesn't make any sense. He's not going to
talk anymore? All these politicians say crazy stuff.
I think he's going to lower the temperature of the rhetoric. Okay. I'll put it that way.
All right.
So, when Trump was on Fox the other day, was it yesterday? They asked him, how do we bring people together? They were asking him what I've been saying. We have to come together and find a way to come together. And he said, I know I'm going to get into trouble for this, but I really don't care. I don't see Vance saying something like that. I think Vance would attempt to appear more presidential. He would at least give voice to the right words to try to reach more people. He's still going to be a far-right conservative, but I don't think he's going to uphold all of the initiatives of Trump. I think he may walk back the tariffs, and that may help. He's going to do some things that are different than the way Trump would have done them. I don't know if that's better or worse. I just see him doing some different things.
Well, you mentioned tariffs and ice cream. It all started with the dairy industry.
I should have never mentioned the Haagen-Dazs.
You see what you've done now? You've gone and opened the ice cream carton. Oh my. So I need to look across the ocean again to Gaza. Will Trump actually turn it into a resort?
No. No. That is not going to happen. That's never going to happen. That is a clear no.
Good.
But
good.
I do not see the situation in Gaza turning a final corner to get better for a while. I think it's going to be 27, maybe even 28 before we start to see real improvement in Gaza. It will come, but not as soon as any of us would like.
Yeah, well, it's just, I don't know if it will ever end over there in that area. It's just,
yeah.
So
I get that.
But again, you don't see that escalating to a point where it might trigger a much wider conflict or even a third world war, even as Israel in the past week, attacked Hamas leaders inside Qatar.
I don't see it escalating to World War III, which is good. Positive outcome of not seeing that level. When I pick up the energy of Netanyahu, his energy feels very unpopular at home, just like Trump's energy feels very unpopular in the U.S. I don't know how popular Mark Carney is. It's like Netanyahu is using his position to say, I'm doing this and I don't care what it costs me and I don't care what it costs you. I'm going to do it and the heck with anybody who doesn't agree with me. So he's not really open to negotiation. He's not really open to how do we fix this? It's, I'm going to do this and the heck with everybody else, which does not help the situation. But I see it getting better, not in 26, but in 27, 28. I think it starts to get better. So, but I hate that we have to wait that long.
Yeah, it's these are scary, scary times.
They are, but we came in to be beacons of light. We came in to bring in light, to bring in peace, to keep hope, to do the right thing, even when the world seems to be falling apart. I've been thinking a lot lately that this is probably what it felt like in World War II. Like the world was falling apart
Oh, yeah.
and nothing made any sense anymore. And nobody knew what was going to happen. But World War II finished, the world rebuilt, and life moved on. It was different. You never went back to what it was, but it moved on to build something else. I think as we move past this period of history, we're going to build countries in a world that's different, but maybe better, not necessarily bad. I think we're getting better, but we can't see that yet. We're too much in the fighting, in the anger, in the angst, in the fear.
In the fog of war.
Yes, in the fog of war. And sadly, there are politicians all over the world that will use this to try to anger people, to try to get them head up and fight this person, and they're your enemy, and kill this person. And you know, some world leaders are wonderful and some world leaders are making the bad situation worse. And that's just welcome to reality. You know,
Yeah. But we
I do
have free
something
will.
about
And that's what I said yesterday. You know, what if they had a civil war and nobody showed up? And so
it.
while they were fighting in Toronto today, I went out and hugged a tree, and then I took my dog for a walk, and I worked on my car. And right now, while all those guys are still fighting, there's a potluck neighborhood dinner thing taking place
Okay.
across the street where my wife is, and I didn't go because I'm here with you guys tonight, but that's okay. But that just shows you
But
you
you're
have a choice,
remembering
right?
friendship,
Mhm.
you're remembering kindness, you're living in peace, you're choosing to live in peace.
Yep.
I know a lot of clients tell me they can't watch the news anymore. It just triggers them and scares the bejesus out of them.
Yep.
So they just stopped watching.
Yeah.
And I understand that. It's hard to have this kind of negativity, you know, put into your home every single day. Now, I will say during COVID, when we were all stuck at home and the news was not good and the death rate is going up, I found a network called the Good News Network.
Hmm.
And every day I would check the Good News Network because I'd be like, I need some good news. And there'd be things like this puppy saves a child from drowning, and you know, they're reforesting something and they discovered a new plastic that'll eat up, you know, garbage.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's just nice, good, positive, uplifting energy. And we all need some of that. So talk to your friends about, oh, you look beautiful. You know, what's that Billy Crystal old thing from Saturday? You look marvelous. You look marvelous. We need to help each other remember kindness and laughter and fun. And that basically it comes down to, how are we treating other people? How do we expect to be treated ourselves? And there's your free will.
Simple, and it doesn't cost you a thing.
Doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
Just kindness.
Indeed. Susan Reynolds, one more time, how can people find you and reach out to you?
You can go to my website. It is exploreastrology.com.
Yep.
And it has my email address on there. It has my contact information on there. And reach out, give me a jingle, and we will see what's going on in your chart and what kind of soul lessons you came in to learn, and the easy way. I think it took me well into my 50s or 60s to ask to learn the easy way. I want to hit that easy button, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's your website right there, just so people can refer
Yeah.
to that. And it is exploreastrology.com.
.com. Uh-huh.
Susan Reynolds. And we'll go to your homepage, and 40 years of experience reading the stars and
Yeah.
giving us guidance as we make our own choices in life and for our countries. Is there anything else you'd like to add tonight, Susan, before we sign off?
No, I'm going to say thanks for having me. I'm going to say it's been delightful being here. And thanks for giving me an opportunity to share how I believe we grow and learn and can still find peace in a crazy world.
Yeah, well, it's been an absolute privilege and a delight to have you on Maverick News tonight. And love all you guys out there. Thank you for joining us again, Maverick family. And I will be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the flip side. I'll leave you with Maverick and the News Brothers and my favorite song, Free Dog.
I heard old Cosmo howling last night up on the hill where the moon shines so bright. He was singing a tune, lonesome dogs cry about freedom, running and touching the sky. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. Cosmo's got them paws that just itch to roam. He's chasing his dreams, he's far from home. With a heart full of love and a spirit so free, he's living his life wild and carefree. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of a blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the legs. Now the night's getting cold and the sky's turning gray, but Cosmo's still out there, he's miles away. He's not looking back, he's got his path to tread. With every step, he's leaving his bed. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. So if you're feeling lost, just think of Cosmo's run. Remember his spirit, his freedom, his fun. And maybe one day, when you're feeling alone, you'll find your own freedom and let your spirit go. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of a bird. A heart full of love and a spirit so free. He's living his life wild and carefree. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard a bird. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the legs.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.